All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining the Konveyor architecture meeting for today. We've got two topics. Phil and Marco are going to present the tackle project regarding application inventory and discuss some of the architecture behind that. And then we're going to wrap up with Sean Hurley, who's going to present some actions on our GitHub repos. So basically how to set up some enhancements in the repos and use those enhancements in the repos at the community layer. So that said, Phil, I'm going to hand it off over to you and Marco to kick us off.
Okay, thanks, Brett. I'll tell you what, I'll share my screen just to get things going. Just bear with me one moment. Okay, then, so just a little bit of context for everybody. The application inventory in Pathfinder is a new application that's been developed under the Tackle project within Konveyor, and it essentially provides a superset of the functionality that was available under a thing called Pathfinder, which is an application assessment tool that was developed by Red Hat Consulting. I will provide you sort of overview of the functional content of the application, and then I'll hand off to Marco, who can give you some insight into the technical architecture and how it's been constructed and what technologies we are embracing in developing this application. Okay then. So hopefully you can all see my screen. What you can see in front of you is the application inventory, which is one of the microservices that were developed. The concept of the application inventory is it allows you to ingest a portfolio of applications into the application. You can use a CSV import to uplift data from a third-party system into here, or you can use the user interface for creating new applications. And the idea is that you create the applications and you describe what they are, you link them to the business services that they support, and you can add numerous tags to these applications that allow you to add as much metadata to describe the applications from a technical standpoint, or from any other dimension for that matter, as you choose. And then you use the Pathfinder questionnaire, which is an assessment process that basically assesses the applications with regard to their suitability for containerization and migration onto an enterprise Kubernetes platform. So the workflow basically is you create your applications or you import your applications. You can set up a lot of control information that allows you to describe those applications, and then you work through the questionnaire process to reveal more information about those applications, and I'll demonstrate that in a second. And then you have a series of reports that allow you to plan the execution of that migration project and get these applications across onto an enterprise Kubernetes platform. Okay then, so I'll just start with the controls. The controls is lots of sort of metadata that helps add value to the actual assessment process, or add value to describe the applications or the business services that they support. The first one of the controls is the stakeholders. So what we do when we create an assessment is that we list all of the people who've been involved in that assessment. So essentially, the assessment of an application or group of applications would be done by a consultant. There'd be a technical architect typically leading the process, and they would bring in subject matter expertise from all different branches of the customer's business. It could be the business owner, it could be developers, people involved in QE, the project office, internal audit, information security, you name it. There could be lots of different people with lots of different perspectives adding value to the assessment. And what we do is we allow them the definition of all these stakeholders and link them to a particular job function, and we provide a predefined list of job functions that can be extended or maintained. And we allow them to group these stakeholders into stakeholder groups as a convenient way of managing them. So you can see this is an example of a stakeholder, and he belongs to the secured lending new business stakeholder group. Stakeholder groups is just a different way of looking at the same data. So you can see these are different, essentially aligned to different business services within the system. And you can see this audit, security, and PMO stakeholder group has got these 3 stakeholders. Yeah. Job functions, we've got a standard list of job functions that you can link to stakeholders, but obviously you're free to edit and maintain these things yourself. And we have a collection of business services, and these business services will reflect the core verticals within the organization that you are performing the application assessment for. And finally, and most interestingly, from a controls perspective, is that we have a collection of tags, and this tagging data again is extremely flexible and allows you to add as many dimensions to describe these applications as you choose to. For example, application type, the flavor of database, which data center these applications are maintained in, which programming language you use, all these sorts of things. So these are individual tags, and each tag type is giving a color and a rank. And the idea is that provides some context when you look at the application inventory as to what these tags represent. It's very easy to create new tags, and it's just a case of entering something here. I think I'll show me age here, and you have to link it to a particular tag type, and you can create new tag types the same way. And now you'll see there's a DL1 tag within the database tag types. Obviously, you can delete these. Things are redundant. You just get rid of them, that kind of thing. So when you go to the application inventory and you start creating new applications and augmenting existing applications, what you can do is you can see all of the tags that have been associated with this particular application. And if I wanted to add a new one, for example, say which data center it was this particular application is maintained within, you would just go down to the appropriate tag type and choose the data center and click save. And now you'll have an additional tag type, additional tag associated with that application. And the idea of these tags is they're super flexible, but it also allows you to group applications together that have shared common characteristics. And we do this using the filtering capabilities within the application. So if I was to say I wanted to filter by tags that are either language COBOL or language Java, and also that support the business service, say motor insurance, then what you get here is the subset of applications that satisfy that filter criteria. Yeah, and as I say, it's very easy to manage these filters and distill down applications that have shared common characteristics. Once you have your applications defined, the next thing to do is to go through the assessment and the review process. And what you do in order to do that is you select an application, you click on the assess button, and it'll take you into the questionnaire process. And I've actually started this questionnaire process already for this particular application. So I've already defined the stakeholders and stakeholder groups that are involved in it. And basically you work your way through all of these questions, in conjunction with a technical architect who will be leading the engagement. And the idea is that these particular questions will serve as particular risks that will sort of inform the suitability of the application for containerization or not. Obviously, it's intended to be a very interactive sort of engagement, and although capturing individual answers to individual questions is important as part of that engagement, what's also important is the other knowledge that gets surfaced as a consequence of the conversations. And the idea is that within each section of the questionnaire, you can enter some free format comments. I'll just put here so you can see how this presents itself later on in the process. So you work your way through the questionnaire in conjunction with the leader, and eventually, when you've completed all of the questions for all the different categories of the questionnaire, you have the option to do a save and review. Save, just save the assessment, or go to the next step of the process, which is the review process. And the review process is the point in the process where you assess the risks and make an informed decision as to what the migration strategy is for this particular application. Yeah. So in this case, I'm going to hit the review button. It takes me into the review dialog screen, and you will see what's happened is the consequence of the questions and answers has surfaced 11 sort of high risk issues, 3 low ones and 14 medium ones. Yeah. And you'll see the assessment notes has consolidated the individual comments that were entered at the bottom of every section of the questionnaire. The risks are all detailed here, and you can sort them and filter them and see what risks are relevant to this application. And essentially, you can make a decision about the next steps that you're going to take with this particular application. You have to make a decision whether to rehost, refactor, replatform, which one of the 6 R's you're going to choose for this particular application. So we're going to choose refactor. How much work's involved? Yeah, and again, that's very much informed by the risk. And then what you have to do is provide a rating in terms of the business criticality of this application in the range of 1 to 10, and also a work priority of this application. So, how critical is it to the business, and how does this application stand in terms of prioritization compared to the other applications in your portfolio? You can enter some comments that justify why you've entered all these values, and then once that's complete, you submit the review, which this is obviously already being done. So that's the process that you follow, and what it generates at the end of the day essentially is a set of reports. And what I should have done was just filter these down to say a subset of applications for a particular business service. So I'll choose the motor insurance ones again, and you'll see in terms of the motor insurance applications, we have in total of 8 different applications that have been assessed. And this table here nicely summarizes the assessment and review decisions that have been made against these applications. One of them hasn't been reviewed as yet. The rest of them will have been through the assessment and review process. You can see the relative business criticalities and business priorities for these applications, and how much confidence we have in terms of migrating these applications across onto an enterprise Kubernetes platform. There's also a 2-dimensional grid that shows these applications in the context of how confident we are and their business criticality. And it also shows some inter-application dependencies, which I haven't demonstrated yet, but I will in a second. Just going back to the table view. And then we have a suggested adoption plan, which is again based upon the business, the application and the dependencies, and the colors of these bars within this sort of Gantt chart type graphic reflect the decisions. We host, we platform, we factor, and the length of these bars is a reflection of the effort. Yeah, so that's small, that's a medium, that'll be a large, that kind of thing. And then what this also does is show all of the high risk issues across all of the applications. And again, we have the sorting and filtering capabilities that allow us to focus in on particular questions or answers. So if I wanted to say focus on a question that contains the word production, give that, and you would see the subset of questions that have the word production within those questions. The thing that I didn't do was demonstrate within the application inventory how you show relationships between applications. So if you click on here and click on manage dependencies, what you can see is the links between this application and other dependencies. So you can see that the Haulier front end has a southbound dependency on the Haulier back end. And we could look at something like the MotorSure Authenticator, which is used by numerous different applications, and look at its dependencies, and you will see that there's at least 2 other applications, the Policy Plus front end and the Code Generator front end, that rely upon this MotorSure Authenticator. So basically, what this dialog box allows you to do is define north and southbound dependencies, and the validation will ensure that there's no circular dependencies created between the various different applications within the portfolio. Okay, right. I appreciate that was quite a whistle-stop tour What I haven't shown you is the import of applications. So this process allows you to import applications. So what it's expecting is that you nominate a file that is in the appropriate format, CSV file, and you just click on a sample input file and click import, and that will trigger the import process. And when I go to the manage import screen, what you can see is my user Alice has imported a file of applications, and there was none of those applications were accepted, but one was rejected. And if I want to see the details behind it, I can view the error report. It'll tell me what's wrong. This accounts payable application has already been defined, and if I wanted to make some changes to the import file and correct my mistakes, I can just click the export button, and that will allow me to save that file locally and make whatever changes I need, and then re-import it. Yeah. So I think from a functional point of view, that pretty much covers all of the bases. This application is available to use as an operator within operatorhub.io, and also as a community operator within OpenShift. We have version 0.03 available right now, and that's available to consume, and it contains all of the functionality that I've demonstrated here and now. We've got version 1.0.0, which will be the first official release of this operator, getting published next Wednesday, so that's July the 7th, when the first official release of this application will be available. But as I say, there's a fully functional alpha version that you can play with now. So please use it and provide us some feedback on the application. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Is there any questions or comments from a functional perspective or project perspective?
Phil, thanks for the demonstration presentation. Very cool. I think this is a hugely powerful tool that could evolve and morph into many things. One question I did have is, as we're looking at Konveyor at the community layer, we're looking at all of our migration tooling and projects in that space. Is there a shared backend source of data that all these tools could potentially use over time? So we're doing discovery assessment of applications. We may want to refactor, rehost, or replatform those applications. Is there something that we might be able to share across some of those various projects that would help us, as a central repository for this data? Is that planned, or is it something that may be considered for future?
Well, I think the application inventory is sort of a natural integration point, to be truthful, Brett. And what we need to do is extend the metadata that's available on these applications, so we can have lots of user-defined fields and some additional dedicated fields, so that this thing can be purposed for whatever you want. Yeah. So what we're looking to do is create a lot of user-defined fields, and really, this should be the springboard for integration into other migration tooling. So the wind-up tool, which is the application analysis, which decompiles applications and runs rules against them, will become the next thing that gets integrated in the application inventory. There's also a thing called Application Container Advisor, which IBM have just open sourced yesterday, which is all about looking at technical characteristics of applications and trying to choose the appropriate container image, based upon like a machine learning type algorithm. And again, it naturally fits with the application inventory as being the launching point. So in answer to your question, yes, that's very much the way I see it going.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. What I haven't done when I've been doing all my talking is giving Mark or Ritzy the chance to just provide a bit of a technical overview of the application from a technical perspective. So Mark, can I hand over to you at this point and you take over?
Yeah, sure, thanks. So maybe I can share the screen as well and start from where Phil left, talking about the operator, which is, okay, let's wait a second. Okay, I hope that my screen has been shared now. So Phil mentioned about the operator, which is right now in version 0.0, 0.0.3. It has been released both on the upstream and the OpenShift community catalogs, so I can start from where he left. Our operator is available in the modernization and migration category. I already installed in this Katacoda environment just to speed up the, let's say, the technical part. Okay, so I moved to the developer view, and here I think that the topology view can help in having an overview of what you can find behind the curtain about about the functionalities that Phil explained. So the UI is provided from a Buttonfly 4 application that is also in charge of managing a proxy for letting the browsers to get into the let's say the inner microservices using the different endpoints we provided for the different entities. Phil mentioned there are different entities and how to say different kind of data you can manage. So I think that you have been able to see the all the controls, so the stakeholder groups, the job function, the tags, they are all together in a microservice called exactly the controls. Then there's the app inventory, which is the microservice in charge of managing the applications. So starting from the application list, the import, and all the associations related to the applications. And last but not least, there's the Pathfinder microservice, which is the third one, which is in charge of managing all the questions and everything related to the questionnaire, which is, let's say, the next version of the Pathfinder tool that has been created and managed so far from Red Hat Consultancy, that has been moved now in the Konveyor community, and it became an upstream project. Each one of these microservices has a kind of backend, which is the database. For each one, we have a Postgres SQL instance. Everything is kind of authorized and authenticated using our own Keycloak instance. So everything is managed by this, let's say, fourth microservice, which is the Keycloak. Is a Keycloak instance running just, let's say, for us, which can be then integrated with whatever other authentication service or provider you want to add. As you can see, there's also this kind of standalone deployment, which is the operator itself that is managing right now all these other. I mentioned that the UI has been developed using Butterfly 4 in the React flavor. The other three backends, so the controls, the application inventory, and the Pathfinder, has been developed using Quarkus. Right now we are using the latest Quarkus 1 release. While for Keycloak, we are just using the provided image from the Keycloak team. And I think that from the technical overview, I think I covered the technologies that have been used. Just want to add that for managing the databases, because it's a kind of topic that that is always discussed when talking about microservices, updates, and so on. The database management has been implemented using Flyway. So all the changes to the database are managed through the Flyway tool.
And is it worth mentioning Quarkus as well?
Yeah, I think I said, but yeah, everything has been developed in the controls application inventory Pathfinder, relying on Quarkus version 1 so far, and we plan to upgrade it to Quarkus 2. Everything is running in native mode right now. All of the free microservices are running in native mode. And I don't know if there's any question, any kind of doubt or curiosity you have about what you have seen so far?
Yeah, you already answered the question I would have had. So that's about the database schema management when it comes to an operator upgrade. So you covered all bases, it seems. So great work, thank you.
Yeah. It's a kind of common question. It's not inside the operator, but each microservice is in charge of managing its own changes to the underlying database. So that's totally separated and loosely coupled. So great, or I created a lot of fog around me, or it has been yeah.
I think maybe it's a moment of digestion and maybe some questions later. But if there are no more questions or feedback for Marco, go ahead, Marcus.
Just one question. So typically, when I have been doing Pathfinder assessments with customers, to save the customer the effort of, although it was just a couple of minutes, but going to the administrators, etc., blah blah. So I had it running in just keep it short. I had it running on my local Minikube or not Minikube, Minishift or Code Ready containers. So have you tried that? I mean, since it's all Quarkus in native mode, I don't expect it will blow my laptop, right?
Yeah. Your expectations are fine. I did this demo using this OpenShift 4.7 instance provided by Katacoda, because the topology view is always helpful in placing the microservices and so on. So it helps a lot, even more than slides. But it has been developed using Minikube locally, and the operator is also available upstream, so in operator-app.io, where you will have the instructions to install in Minikube. You just have to have the ingress add-on, as Minikube called them, enabled, and the OLM1 as well, to leverage the operator-app stuff, and then it will work. It's kind of straightforward in the end.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so being totally selfish, that's just me. So I asked about CRC. Well, as a Red Hatter, I would be using that, but I'd be interested, and you just explained that. So it's working perfectly on Minikube as well, since it has been developed with Minikube.
Yeah.
The previous one that came out of Red Hat Consulting was obviously targeted at primarily at OpenShift, but this one, since it's a community release, will work on Minikube as well. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. And the upstream community version available on operator-app.io, as the rule, it has to work on vanilla Kubernetes. They have tests for this, so we were keen to be able to get the upstream community operator just to prove that it's vanilla Kubernetes and it works. So other than me saying that, yeah, we done it, there are the tests from operator app that proves it.
Okay, perfect. That's a huge step forward. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Marco? Okay, Sean, I think we've got you up next to do some discussion around the enhancement repo stuff. So feel free to share and take it away.
Sure. Hey, folks. So, give me 1 second. Okay, so hopefully folks can see the enhancement repository up here. I just wanted to discuss the enhancement repository in this larger forum because I think it's super helpful for what we've been doing with Crane, and I kind of wanted to get some eyes on it and see what folks think for the larger community using this for architectural discussions. So I think as we move forward as a larger community, we're going to get more and more into a place where we're going to probably want to have integration points or things along this nature, and having a shared place where we're discussing architecture seems to me to be a decent place where we can all collaborate. And so just to give you a quick idea of what this is, we basically are using the same process that Kubernetes and OpenShift use for enhancements. And an enhancement is basically, you can see here, it's really impacts how Konveyor projects are operated, including addition or removal of significant capabilities, needs significant efforts to complete, requires code and consensus across multiple domains and repositories, and then demands formal documentation to utilize. So that last one, I don't know if we're 100% ready to use that one, but the top three I think are really important for determining if it's an enhancement. And I think it's really good for lots of folks across the entire community to be able to see what each project is working on or what they're attempting to do. And so just a quick thing here, you can use the enhancement template right here to get started. This is the exact same enhancement template that will be used by Kubernetes and OpenShift. Derek put up a nice little FAQ here. And so what you really are going to do is you're going to go to the enhancements directory. And I think we want to change the directory structure of this to where lots of these folders are actually inside of like a Crane 1.0 folder. So for instance, Crane 2.0 has these enhancements, and you can go and you can read that particular enhancement. What it's trying to do, its user stories, its implementation details. And obviously these sometimes get out of date because as you implement something, you realize that something needs to get changed or something like that. And submitting a fix-up request to this particular repository that says, oh, we changed this, would be the correct thing to do. So just to give you an idea of like kind of one particular enhancement where I think we've done a really good job of having lots of discussion around this is our state-only migration PR, where we're discussing state-only migrations and what that looks like. This has gone through a couple different rounds of review at this point, and you can see that we have lots of people commenting. We are discussing how we can make sure that things can be backwards compatible, how things behave, how things are going to work, and a testing plan to make sure that we all in agreement that we can test that. I think this is super useful, and I just wanted to bring it up as a way for hopefully people to eventually also want to contribute to this, and to I think it's really helpful for us. So I can answer any questions if anybody has any questions around this, but yeah.
Sean, this is really cool. I like the concept, the idea. Really neat to be able to pull folks together. Workflow question I had was, let's say we submit one of these enhancements. Should we tag folks, for review, or is it just something that periodically we, as good citizens in the community, need to go and review?
So I think right now we don't have like a larger architecture body that would really so probably right now your sub-project people should probably be reviewing it. If you notice, like most of that Crane 2 PR that I put up that Pranav did an awesome job on, there's a lot of folks who are working directly in that. And I think that makes sense for a lot of enhancements. It's when the enhancement maybe is a little bit larger where you say like, oh, there seems to be a place where this could be a collaboration point between X person and Y person. And we should probably have both people look at that, both teams look at that. At that point, I would say, I think it makes sense to tag some of the other people if you know ahead of time. And then, I think it's incumbent on a certain number of people who want to drive the sharedness of this to kind of do once overs of them and maybe see if they see the collaboration points and tag people at that point, or at least go have that discussion. I think it might also be a good place to bring up here. If you like have something, you can say, oh, I think like this is something that we could share across whatever else. And now we have some concrete written down thing that everyone can read beforehand and we can discuss. So that's kind of the thought process. I don't know if what folks think around that.
Sean, one question. I mean, for some enhancements, if there's not much of a discussion, is there like a good timeout period where you say, okay, it's all good, let's go ahead?
So at the end of the day, right, like your sub project still has all of the ability to merge those enhancements on your own, right? And so like if your sub project feels like it's okay, then like right now I think you can merge it. I think it's probably good if certain things are going to be shared across different projects, that you give them the opportunity to comment on it, right?
Makes sense. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments for Sean on this? Well, Sean, it sounds like this is going to organically grow, with participation over time. So this workflow will be a little more ad hoc initially and whatnot. So, okay.
Sorry, Sean. Once you merge, what is going to happen then? I can understand there's the discussion in the pull request, and then once you merge, it means that you decided to move forward in doing the enhancement, basically. Is this related to the next steps or something like that?
So sometimes, right, like it would be, sometimes enhancements are like, we need to change these 5 repos. And like next steps require you to like file like 5 different PRs against 5 different repos and manage the merging of them and doing that sort of thing. Usually that's a little different. If you just merge an enhancement, then for something that's wholly owned by your sub project, I think it makes sense that you then go ahead and can go do that. It's worth noting that the enhancement doc should not be considered a replacement for like user documentation in any way. It's really around like the choices we made when we were architecting things. Yeah, a rejected in Kubernetes, a rejected idea can be merged, Pranav. I think that right now we could probably close them, but we can, because we're so small, we can still find those closed ones. But that's kind of the idea, right? Like it also documents the decision that was made, why we made decisions. So for anybody new or anybody coming to like look at a project from the community perspective can say, oh, like they thought about my thing X, and this is the reasons why. Or we can point people to that and say like, hey, we had a long discussion around this. Here's the discussion that we had. It's just another way of really being able to be transparent and open to the community around design decisions that we're making every day.
So Sean, could this be related to bringing some projects from some new projects on board within the community?
Maybe. It probably depends. I don't know if you have something in particular in mind. And that might be
nothing that.
Yeah,
I'm guessing in the future there. Yeah, I'm guessing in the future there will be vendors or GSIs that would want to contribute some new projects to the community. So, how would that be done? Would that be related to? Will be treated as enhancements, or are we thinking about a different process for these let's say new projects and the incubators cycle and things like that? Will that be related in any way?
I really think that that's a problem. I don't know, Brett, like you're way more involved in this community stuff than I am, so maybe this is a good question for you, but I would imagine that like that would be a steering committee type of discussion. And then once that gets brought in, then they would use the enhancements to if they do it, to share the knowledge and things like that. but it wouldn't be. But Brett, I don't know. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is this could be Ramona, I think you touched on it. This is kind of an incubator possibility for inclusion into Konveyor. So let's say that, like you say, a vendor is looking at working within the community. They may not necessarily own a project in the community or have a project in the community yet. So this could be a point of entry of discussion around some of their tooling and how it might be able to, flow into some of the overall Konveyor tooling. Obviously there'll need to be some governance decisions around, and other new project inclusions into the community. So I think we would just need to meet as a body to make a determination on that after a thorough review.
Okay, thank you.
Sean, one more question. Maybe I missed it. Is there a linkage between the enhancement document and the issues and the comments on the issues? Like,
right now, there's not. No, and by issues, you mean like GitHub issues?
Like on the enhancement repo, I see issues. Like, how does the community have a conversation against an enhancement document? Is it through the issues? Or?
Through the pull request. So if you look at the enhancements and you look at like one of the pull requests, like if you look at the state migration pull request, you can see the discussion going on based on the details that were laid out in that particular thing.
Oh, I see. So the pull request is tied to that enhancement document.
Right, the pull request contributes the enhancement document. And then we save the enhancement document for all time, right?
Got it. Thanks.
Any additional thoughts, comments, feedback? All right. Well, I think we have an opportunity to give folks 15 minutes back. So, Sean, Phil, Marco, thanks everybody for presenting great topics of discussion. Really super excited about this enhancements repo. I think we've got some neat collaboration opportunity there. So, if those that may have some questions that filter in later, feel free to send those over to the Konveyor.io group chat or mailing list, and we'd be happy to answer those as well. So again, thanks everybody for participating. We'll meet up again in another month or so, and take care and talk soon. Thank you.
Cheers, Brad.